we have with us Thomas McDowell Jr., the author of The Story of Isaac. And this is your first published piece, I believe, right?
Right.
And you wrote it during quarantine in the midst of COVID in high
Yep.
school.
Yep.
So you're a new author. So tell us about yourself, since we can't, or can we find you on Wikipedia? I didn't even try, but I'm
You
assuming
probably can't. I'll do a little bit of self-telling. So again, I'm a teen author. I'm 17 now. I wrote the book when I was 16. I go to high school in North Carolina. I lived here for about 3 or 4 years now, but I was born in Hawaii, the state of Hawaii. Let's see. I have a brother, a twin brother actually. He's my ride or die right there. He's my buddy. Um, I have a dog, I have a cat, and you'll see if you when you read the book that animals are a big part of it. And I came from a military family. My mom and dad were in the military. Um, my dad retired in 2016. So yeah, that's pretty much about me.
Okay, so I'm assuming you moved around a lot then, if you're a military family.
Yes.
Were you-
Every 2 years we would move, which made it was a little hard to move because especially when you're growing up, you make friends and you got to move around all the time. But it does help with making connections. And the friends that I do have are my best friends, and I still communicate with them, whether from Hawaii or when I lived in California for a bit. They're like really good friends of mine, so it does help with that.
Nice. So you've lived in Hawaii, California. Did you ever go international?
I have not. My father did. We just stayed in the States. Um, I did go to Alaska, so I did travel through Canada a bit, but I never went. I would say out of the states or lived out of the states. Would love to though. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you've got time and you're not missing anything right now. It seems like
Yeah.
everything's shut down. So hopefully by the time you graduate, it'll be the perfect year for a gap.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, because I had seen on the back that it said military family. So it sounds like this is the first time you've been in one place for a while.
Yes, definitely.
Nice. Well, I hope you're enjoying North Carolina and staying in one place. I moved around a lot too, and that's what everyone would be like, oh, packing. It's like, yeah, I have to throw things away, decide
Yep.
what to keep.
Hmm.
So, um, so tell us a little bit about how you were inspired to do this, because I know a lot of people have a book or a story that they always want to write, but they never sit down and do it.
Yep.
I'm one of them. So what inspired you to just sit down and do it?
Um, so it's actually a pretty interesting story. So a week before I kind of decided to make this book, we woke up early in the morning. My mom's school coach, my mom works at a middle school. The basketball coach, they're having a workout session, and COVID was starting, so we said might as well do it because there's nothing better to do, right? You want to work out and stuff. So we went to the session, and his son, the coach's son, was talking about how he never got the opportunity to show who he was. He didn't get this opportunity for stardom until his senior year of high school, and he worked really hard to do so, and he got to play college now. It's awesome, and it kind of made me think like he worked hard for something and he put his mind to something, even though people told him he couldn't do it. He did it. So on the ride back, I thought to myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to leave the mark on? Um, and I decided to write the book. Now, when I was writing the book, at first I was going to do a basketball story, and then what happened was the incidents with the police brutality and all that stuff, the George Floyd killing, all that. I saw it on the news, and my friends and stuff were talking about it, and I was a kid who didn't really pay attention to the news because I thought it didn't affect me, but it does. So I sat down and decided, this would be a cool thing to incorporate in my book. I think it could connect to a lot of kids. And that's pretty much how I thought of the idea of the book itself. And then animals, I think animals were used in storytelling since the beginning of time. You could think the Disney and all that, they've been used to tell stories, especially to the younger audience. And I like animals a lot. I'm my Instagram as my dog and my cat. I love them to death. So I use them animals to help portray my story. And then another thing about writing itself is I used to not writing. I used to not like English class at all. It wasn't until about my 8th grade year I started to enjoy kind of the idea of reading and writing. But that was really only because at a young age, people told me that I wasn't good enough for it. You know, people they assumed that I wasn't, you know, they kind of assumed that I would just be good at sports or and stuff like that, which is sad to say, but some people do think that way, and it's sad. But you know, they said you would never really writings your bar is low. They set the bar low for me, and it wasn't until around 8th grade, my English teacher, and she's one of my favorite teachers. 8th grade year is my favorite year in schooling because all my that really just set the bar for education. She would tell me I was great at writing because we had writing projects, and then she would read my writing, and she said, you're really good at this. You know, you have a talent." And she kind of put the faith in me. You know, my parents and stuff always told me I was good at it, but hearing it from another, like a teacher, someone who's been through it all and telling me that I'm good at it really helped me a lot. And that kind of set the start for my reading and writing kind of career, as just loving to write and stuff like that.
Do you have any advice for some students that might not be getting encouragement, but they still have a story to tell? Anything to help them?
I do. Always, everybody has a story, right? Everybody has a story to tell. No matter how you tell it, you should tell it. Someone wants to hear it, and someone will hear it, and someone feels the exact same way you felt. I know a lot of kids, a lot of friends of mine, they've kind of felt the same way, that they were told that they weren't going to be good enough for something, or they're not talented enough for something. But I think that's a way of motivation to prove them wrong. You know, you got to prove those people wrong. Of course, you got to work hard because nothing's a given, but you got to prove those people wrong because um, proving them wrong or letting them their words win is how you let them win, and you don't want them to win. And even if, you know, some people say success, like my friends, success is based on money and views and all that stuff. Success is not based on money or views. It's about your inner self really opening up, enlightening yourself and becoming a better person every day. So it doesn't matter if you sold or you gained, say you're trying to gain weight and you only gained 1 pound the whole time. It doesn't matter that you didn't gain the 20 pounds or so. You gained that 1 pound, so you got better. And that's pretty much what I have to give to the youth, is always get better. Because you may not, reality is you may not be where you like say the top guy, but you got better every day and you're now elite. And that's how I think of it. You are now elite. You may not be, I know I'm gonna do a sports call. You may not be Michael Jordan, but LeBron's pretty good too. And yeah, you gotta take it like that. And that's advice that I would give the youth for people growing up and stuff.
And now that you got those words of encouragement, your story's being taught in schools now.
So,
What was that like? How did
that
that
was
happen?
the most amazing thing. Like when it was on the news and all that stuff, I was off the walls. My family was calling me, my friends called me. I have people in my high school telling me like they saw me on the news and it was cool and they want me to sign their books and stuff. Which is it's just like the book, I give them the book and they sign it, which is awesome. I really love seeing people happy about my creative work and really enjoying it. And then there's kids that come up to me that say they love my book. The kids, that's my favorite, because these are so-called kids that didn't like reading at all. They weren't readers. At least that's what I heard from their teachers and stuff. And then they're reading my book and they're enjoying the book and learning to love reading. And that's really the goal here, is learning to love reading and writing and kind of knowing the art of it. But that was awesome seeing it on TV and stuff. I got my coaches seeing it and all that, my friends, and texting me how they think it's cool. And I inspired so much of my friends. My friends told me that they had kind of like most people, they had a story, but they kind of left it on the low, or they wrote it when they were 9 years old, thinking it was just a joke. But they come back to me and tell me like I'm gonna go back into writing or my creative work, drawing, making a story, and they say I'm a lot for it, and that makes me happy, is to know that I influenced them in a positive way and help them, kind of inspired them to go back to what they love to do and stuff. Because sometimes it sucks when things kind of get left in the dust because you grow up and stuff, and you sometimes you forget. You get caught up in the lights of stuff with coronavirus and all that stuff, that you get caught up in too much stuff at a time, and sometimes you have to choose, and it sucks that sometimes you have to choose your hobbies for the betterment of what you have to do, say school. But I think COVID as a whole kind of time slowed down, and sometimes we need to slow down to speed up. That's how I like to think of it. And I kind of live in the slow down time already, so this is my life. Being I'm a so-called introvert in a way. Um, so I kind of keep to myself. So staying kind of inside was kind of my normal. So this was really my element, kind of getting into quiet and writing and stuff like that. So sometimes you have to slow down, and time has to slow down for you to realize everything and kind of take in, so you can speed up and become a better person.
That's really awesome. And that's so cool that with your first story that you've already heard that you're inspiring so many people and seen it. Because I'm sure, yeah, like you said, you put it out there and it finds an audience, but you don't always get to connect to that audience.
Hmm.
That's really
Yeah.
awesome. And you were saying that you're kind of an introvert, which made me think, so how closely connected are you to Isaac? I'm sure everyone wants
Oh,
to know, like, is
uh,
Isaac a reflection of you
that's
or?
Isaac is a reflection of young me, middle school me. That's the learning age me, because you're deciding a lot. But to be honest, I think I wanted Isaac to be the character that everybody could be. Isaac is kind of that middle ground because he's learning and everybody's learning and absorbing from the people. So Isaac is a reflection on me, but Isaac could really be anybody. And this goes for this is a tip for just storytelling and just making characters that I learned too, is you want your main character to be the most flexible, because then he can grow. Especially if you're making a series, you want him to grow because you're making multiple books. So I kind of made Isaac. He is a resemblance of me, but he could be a resemblance of lot of young people. And I love seeing like little kids come up to me and to be like, Isaac, Isaac, and they say I look like him. Which it's cool to say, but these kids really love the characters and stuff, and I really enjoy that.
Nice. And how did you develop all the different characters? As you said, they're all animals. So
Mhm.
how did you decide which animal would represent which character? And how did you decide what type of characters to include? All of that.
Okay.
I like characters.
That question, I like that question because I get that a lot because each person has a favorite character, right? So what I do first is at first I actually think of characters before I make the book. I kind of make the book fold into the characters. So the characters are try to make them alive or feel realistic. Each character, I want them to be the opposite of Isaac. They have to be kind of stagnant. They can still grow, but they're kind of stagnant. So the more Isaac hangs around each character, the more he absorbs each personality and becomes just one person. So, for example, some people, Nicholas, I thought of him, I think of Snarky. I think of my brother. Nicholas is my brother. He's snarky. He's he's smart, but he could be manipulative at times. And there's a lot of people out there like that. They're very smart and stuff. But I kind of thought of my brother, and I actually like that character a lot. And then my Joshua, Isaac's best friend, a dog's person's best friend. Um, Joshua is actually my dog. Rhodesian Ridgeback looks just like my dog. That's why I named him off of him. Joshua's he's a cool kid. Everybody likes him, lovable, stud, which my dog is. Everybody likes my dog. Funny guy. And then Courtney, she's a sheep. She's smart, but she's herbivore again. She's kind of shy and timid and weak, but she's strong in her own way. And then she kind of I really do like the female characters a lot because they kind of show strength in their own way. She makes up with her size and stature with her brain. She's very smart, but still fun loving and cares about everybody. And then you got Jada, who it's funny hearing Jada because Jada, like Isaac and Jada, kind of love couple where people like to do that. And Jada, she's kind of the typical kind of, she's beautiful. People like her, or they learn to like her. At first, it's kind of rough, but she's really similar to Isaac, but she's kind of a female. Everybody loves her. She's the youngest, so she kind of needs to learn as well. And she kind of looks up to Isaac a lot because they're both the same species, and that goes for the parallel goes from real life with the same species thing because there's kids say had two African Americans in the class or two Spanish in the class. or something like that, you look up to your peers and you feel safe around them because you may not know them, but sometimes it feels safer when people look like you and you can kind of go with them. Just when you start, especially when you go to a new school, you want to go around people you don't know anybody, so that's the first assumption you could bring. So Jada kind of and Isaac, they kind of feel closer together, and they may not have connections that other characters have because they're the red foxes, they're the same species. And then Xavier is a great character. He's kind of he's the hero, but no one knows it. He's the hero that he speaks up, but because of his size, he's a lion. He's very talkative, very proud guy. People fear him because of it, because of the way he looks. But he's actually a really nice guy when you get to know him, and he's great leader. But he's kind of people. Some people don't like people who are kind of too much. He's too. He's very radical, and sometimes radical scares people. A great parallel that I would say for him is he's kind of he'll be for Isaac and Xavier because they're both kind of leaders. Xavier will be the Malcolm X, the Isaac's Martin Luther King. If there is parallels, Malcolm X was a great leader, but sometimes his motives were so strong, people weren't ready for his strong motives yet. So people seen that as a threat, even though it wasn't really a threat. He was trying to get equal opportunity. So that's where Xavier comes in, and everybody loves Xavier. And then the dynamic of characters too when they're together. For a great example of this is Xavier and Courtney. It kind of went under the radar, I believe, but some people did catch on, which I thought was cool. They talked to me. Xavier and Courtney are best friends, but they're two opposites, complete opposites. A lion and a sheep, complete predator prey. One, in real life, one hunts and kills the other one. However, they are best friends and they're able to make it work. And that's a beautiful thing when two opposites can make things work. And that kind of speaks to where we are now in a society where just because you look different or you may talk different or age difference or whatever, you can still find peace and work together and love and stuff like that and learn to love and respect each other. Because at the end of the day, you may not have to like the person, but you have to respect them as a person, as an individual, as a human being. So that's what I share with those characters.
I love it. And of course, the underlying things that are happening touch on police brutality and racism. And you mentioned some characters that are connected to Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. How is this book kind of, I don't know, was it like a journal for you? Because I mean, obviously this past year, it's things that have been going on, but just it's been in the news a lot more and getting more attention and people are being more active. So how does this connect to all of the political, historical, racial things happening?
I could say that it was kind of like it was like a journal for me. It was very through my life in a sense. I kind of lived not all those moments, but I lived most of those moments, and I know people who lived all those moments. So it's kind of like I felt the feeling Isaac felt when he first went to a school and no one really respected him and stuff or judged him based on appearance. I felt that. I felt the way Jada felt when she looked at herself and felt that she didn't belong or she wasn't good enough. I felt that. I also felt that sometimes people said things and kind of just left it under the rug. But again, everybody's been there before. There's been times where I should have speaked up, but I was too afraid to. It happens to everybody because fear is very powerful. Fear is one of the most powerful feelings ever. It's very powerful. So, everybody's fearful. But I think now with all the publicity and stuff, people are now not being afraid. They're seeing people stand up. And humans, like animals, are pack animals. If we see one person do it, we'll all join in, good or bad. So a great example of this is back then, this little history lesson with the Salem witch trials. You think back to the whole idea is witches was, they may not be a witch, but if one person says they're a witch, the whole people jump on it because they're like packs. They're like, oh, they feel like if they don't agree with it, they're the outcast. And no one wants to be the outcast in society. No one does. But in my book, people are. And brings back to the carnivore herbivore divide, which was a great. I think that's just a great way to connect it to reality. Um, Carnivore herbivore divide is there's these two groups of people, completely opposite groups of people in a sense, other than their animals, but they kind of have to make it work, and they're trying to make it work. And sometimes trying to make it work, there's going to be ups and downs. Definitely going to be more. Sometimes there's more downs than ups, but those ups you got to take for got to take the ups, because sometimes the ups are so good they outweigh the bads. Um, so yeah, it definitely is a journal for me. This book was the instances, and then sometimes it is fiction book. It's realistic fiction, so you have to take creativity and kind of make scenarios and stuff. That's what the clubs and stuff, which I love. I love the whole high school aspect. I'm one of those people who I know high school could be rough, and it is very rough, but I know the benefits of school. So there's benefits in high school that you can't ever take away. For example, this is high school. You learn how to connect with people and make friends with people, and you learn how to kind of work in this world in a sense. You kind of learn, like, education, all that stuff is really important, but you could always learn that online and stuff. It's more to the whole connecting with people. You learn how to make good connections with your teachers and your friends, and you have prom and all that stuff, and you only have those a couple times or even once your whole life, so you can't take that for granted. And I personally, I kind of like school. I kind of like the idea of it. So I'm one of those. I'm pro school, but I heard a lot of people, especially nowadays, they feel school isn't as necessary. And I think school's really necessary. I think school is one of the more necessary things than ever. Because school, believe it or not, is a safe place for a lot of kids. They're the safest at school. They feel most safe. You got an open environment where you could state your opinion, talk about whatever you need with your teachers, your trusted adults, and stuff like that. So I really have a really prideful and respect for school, and especially for teachers, especially during COVID. It's very hard. There's Zoom meetings and all that stuff. So I do have a really high respect for teachers and education as a whole.
Yeah, you were talking about one of the important parts of high school being that kind of socialization, prom, and things like that. So, what is it like for you guys right now? I don't really get to interview a lot of high school students. I used to be a teacher, and I just think like, oh my goodness, these poor kids. I mean,
It is rough. I will say it's super different, but schools adjusted really well, especially for, I don't think schools get enough credit for their adjustments and how quick they were able to do it. But I will say it was rough, especially some schools are moving to like 3 days or 5 days of physically going. But even when you physically go, you're spacing, you have masks on. And humans or people, facial expressions is how we communicate. So, you could say something with a smile, but kids don't know. And sometimes, especially younger kids, that smile is the best thing ever. When you're young, things are the best. The little stuff is always the best when you're younger. And with the mask and the distancing, it's really rough. I could imagine, and it is rough, especially with the sports and stuff. Some kids had to wait and cancel sports. I feel bad for seniors that couldn't do prom and stuff. All the little things that got taken away from us. Especially, I feel really bad for the elementary students, because they're moving, they're active. That's such a crucial age. You're playing pretend. It's just so crucial, and I feel really bad for them. But teachers and the staff and the whole counties and stuff are doing a really good job in trying to get things back to our normal and learning how to go through this hard time. So I give them props for that.
yeah, I've talked to a lot of teachers about it. But like I said, because I don't have the connection through the library to students the same way that teachers do. I'm a youth services librarian, so I used to see students all the time, and now I don't really see anyone. Um, what is it like, again, when you talk about like being able to see a smile and, even being able to hug a friend, which I don't know if you get to do that anymore. Um, Everything is so digital. Even right now, we're talking on Zoom, and I guess for us, it's a lucky thing because you're in North Carolina and I'm in New Jersey. So this is a kind of gift, but in normal circumstances, we'd be meeting it face to face. And I feel like a lot of kids, especially younger kids, are losing
Mhm.
that ability to connect in person. And I've read that like teenagers especially are almost scared to go meet people in person now.
Yes,
I mean, do you
yes.
feel that way?
I 100% feel that way. I feel there's times I heard from my friends that there's times where they're afraid to go out, and do stuff that they would normally do because they haven't seen people in such a long time that they might have like a panic attack and panic and stuff like that. One of my friends, he didn't go to school. He lives in North Dakota. He's one of my military friends. He's in the military too. He lives in North Dakota, and he didn't go to school one day because he felt like seeing those much people and that so much people in one room at that time would cause him more trouble than harm. He felt scared for his life in a sense, and so he stayed home. What that's if he feels that way, that's the right way to feel. If you feel worried and stuff, you should stay home. You could always do online. But the fact so much kids are depressed and anxious and stuff and don't know how to react to people, it's hard. I could see why they feel that way and are anxious to go places or afraid to hang out and communicate with other people.
Yeah, and part of the reason I'm asking is because I believe you plan on making this a series. So I was wondering, is that going to be touched on in future books? Are you already working on the next book? What's the future for Isaac and his friends?
I am working on the next book. I am doing that. The whole anxiety and stuff, I probably will include that in a book. I'm still working on this book too. I'm actually pretty far in it. So I will include that stuff, and I will say for this book too, is since the book's going to be a growing book because the character is growing, right? Kind of like me, I'm growing. The character's growing, so there's going to be characters are going to change. They're going to feel certain ways, and there's definitely going to be anxiety, all that stuff in books because that's anxiety and stuff. All those mental stuff is definitely a big deal, especially in high schoolers. They start feeling these ways and stuff. So I am going to explore those ideas in my future books.
And you said you've already started it. Can you give us any hints? I feel like almost maybe you can't because there's so much that happens in the end. I don't want to ruin anything, but I'm also curious: is Isaac going to? I don't know what to say without potentially giving it away.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do a better job. Do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like
Yeah. I will say that there's gonna be a lot of. I will say that love is in the air. I will say
okay.
love is in the air.
Okay. And then he was given like a kind of a new position among his peers in the end. Is that also going to be a big theme?
Yes, that's probably gonna be a big theme. It's gonna be crazy. People are gonna really enjoy it. It's gonna be like a wake up call. Like my first book, people say was a wake up call because they didn't expect this book from a 16-year-old. But this book's gonna be a shocker again.
I can't wait. Do you have a like projected timeline, or you just kind of whenever you've got time, it will be done when it's done?
I think it's gonna be just whenever I got time.
Yeah. Because you're still in high school.
Yeah.
You have all these things going on. That's why I was so impressed when I saw you speaking about this book. Like I said, I have a story I want to write and I still haven't, even though I'm not studying for tests and going out for sports and things.
Mhm.
So, okay, well, we'll just have to keep our eyes peeled. And when it's ready, I don't how do people follow up with you? Do you have any social media that's
Oh,
public? Because that's the
yes.
thing too, you're also a teenager, so you don't want to
Mhm.
give too much information
Thanks.
online. How do people follow you professionally?
Professionally. So what I'm gonna do is gonna start a YouTube channel. Um,
Oh,
starting one. It's gonna be Thomas McDowell Jr. Find me. I have no videos on there. This actually might be my first video.
oh, nice.
I'm working on a video, but I have no video on there yet. And I also have Thomas McDowell Jr. my Instagram. You'll find me there. I post my book stuff. That's pretty much anything, but mostly my book stuff, my work and stuff like that. I have Twitter. That's Thomas McD Jr., which is MCD Jr. Um, I actually have. Can you share the screen? Because I have this stuff, and
Oh, of course.
so this is all my stuff. So the YouTube right there, Twitter. Let's move this side.
Okay. Oh, it says you're an artist as well. What kind of art do you do?
Well, I kind of think of writing as art, and
Okay.
I always I do want to do music eventually. You know, I'm still young. There's always time. So I do want to do music and all that stuff eventually. So that's why I put artist in there.
Nice.
Mm.
And as you said, writing is an art for sure. Well, thank you. Now we have all of the information to follow you and your burgeoning career. Hopefully this is the first book of many books. Do you have any other series that are in your mind, or are you just focusing on this one for now?
I do have a series. I'm working on right now, and it's gonna take place. It's a space it's like post-war kind of, or war space thing. It's gonna be in the future, so it's gonna be like, you know, those future books like the year 4080 or something like that in the future. It's gonna be very cool. And the title will be, it's gonna be, I think as of right now it's To Infinity. This book's gonna, it's different, but I think that's good. It's still gonna be that kind of learning kind of book, that kind of like the story of Isaac is, where it's kind of a kid that's my age, like a teenager, is kind of growing up and kind of seeing how war actually is. Because as of right now, the basis of the story I'm working on is the main character is a girl, a female. She's gonna be 16, and the war is seen, to her eyes, the war is seen, or what she heard, the war is seen as good, and she's gonna come to realize what war really is. So that's pretty much the idea of the book, as of right now.
Interesting. That's the style that I like to read most. So I will be sure
My mom said that too, and I told her.
Yeah, I think the day to day is enough. Sometimes you just want to be out in space in the future in a different timeline. Although I guess, I mean, this one doesn't sound like the most pleasant timeline, but hopefully your main character can make a positive difference in the future. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for talking about your book, The Story of Isaac.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a pleasure meeting you and talking with you. You are wise beyond your years. I definitely didn't feel like I was talking to a 17-year-old, but I guess
I get that a lot.
Yeah. So, and I think that maturity also comes through with your writing and how you tackle some serious issues in an accessible way for young people, especially, but even me as an adult, I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
So thank you again. And like I said, I mean, hopefully we'll be having more interviews in the future, and one day you'll be a big famous author, and New Jersey Free Public Library will say, we knew him when.
Hopefully. I'm so glad that to talk to you and stuff. This is awesome. I love just talking to people and just hearing people, you know.
Well, like I said, I mean, when your new book comes out, let us know. We'll do it again. Hopefully we'll have more people live, but like I said, I'm sure our YouTube video will get more views. But yeah, we definitely want to follow your career and support you any way we can. And like I said, just thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.